Well, dear viewers, today we're going to talk about Kyiv and the suburb of Kyiv, Vishneva, where something strange happened. Let's talk about this strange thing right now, and we won't beat around the bush or drag anyone into it, not grabbing the bull by the horns or the cat by the tail, no one. So, what happened? The thing is, in Vishneve, in the Kyiv region, as a result of a night attack on July 6th, there was repeated detonations at the strike site for several hours. That's how vaguely Ukrainian media are reporting what happened there. Repeated detonations at the strike site. Well, I don't even know what could be exploding there, to be honest. If it hit a chicken coop, maybe some eggs cracked. Probably not. It must be something more serious. As of 6 o'clock, it was known that 7 people had died in the Kyiv region, and 6 of them died as a result of these explosions, attacks, and other consequences. And after that, there are eyewitness accounts saying it was very frightening. It was so frightening that probably in 5 years of war, I have never been as scared as I am now, says one of the eyewitnesses. And that's really true because, well, just look at what was happening there. Alright, I'll mute the sound here because, well, there are some inappropriate words for obvious reasons. So, I mean, just imagine a person who is watching all of this. Well, anyway, there are also, of course, a few more videos of the same thing. One of them is probably the closest of those that were posted online, and that's this one. There are also some taken from a distance, so you can see the scale. Phone ringing. So, just imagine from what distance all this can be seen and how far the fragments from these explosions are flying. Phone ringing. And the detonation didn't stop after that, it continued for several more hours. Here, the same eyewitness says that it wasn't the door frames that were blown out, the entire door was, the windows were slightly damaged, but overall everything is more or less okay. They later said the house shook as people went downstairs, but the blast was so strong the front door was blown out. The horror and detonations continue. Eyewitnesses say that everything started at 2 in the morning, then again at 4. The wallpaper came off, the door fell off, says another eyewitness. I see a glow here, it's burning here, and I can't go to the window to look. Honestly, if I were the eyewitness, I wouldn't go near it either. On top of that, after this, the evacuation began. Let me remind you, 500 people, the roads are blocked. People can't get through. The rescuers are shown as they, well, actually save people, pulling them out from under the rubble. All honor and praise, really, to those who can work in such situations. It's a tough time. And then the evacuation is supposed to be voluntary, meaning only those who come on their own. And it's mentioned that in Vishnevoye there's a threat of a secondary detonation. In the Kyiv region, specialized emergency services continue to deal with the aftermath of the massive attack. The most difficult situation is exactly in Vishnevoye. Because of the threat of a secondary detonation of explosive items, they tell us. What are these explosive items? Maybe, I don't know, bottles of alcohol in the near future. Unlikely. The area was surrounded by the police, and after that, moreover, the residents of Vishnevoy were also asked not to go outside. In Vishnevoy, Kyiv region, the city council made an urgent appeal to residents not to leave their homes and not to go to work in the morning. Where are people who don't go to work supposed to get money? Of course, the same council found it difficult to explain. But for now, as they say, it seems we have what we have. Then they also say that a particular danger has been identified for a number of central streets. In particular, Kyivska, Sviatoshinska, Parkova, Европейska, Железнодорожna, and Yuzhna. They outline the blocks near the city stadium and the central park. And here is confirmation that all this was being put out. Later they talked about the secondary detonation, with even Zelensky talking about it. And Volodymyr Zelensky is expecting a detailed report from the Security Service of Ukraine and Intelligence. I can tell you the reason instead of the security service and intelligence. The thing is, ammunition was stored near residential areas. The ammunition detonated after a nearby explosion or a very strong missile or drone strike, and as a result, there were several series of repeated detonations. That's it, money is saved, nobody needs to conduct any investigations. They also say that Zelensky didn't know there were any depots there, and that someone else didn't know either. The depots are so massive that everyone is already talking about them, and it seems almost everyone knew about them. But that's not remarkable. There are reportedly even bigger ones elsewhere. What's most interesting is they've already started there. I'm not sure how much is fantasy or fact, but former Deputy Masichuk, quite an infamous figure, claimed that shells with rods made of low-enriched uranium were stored in that warehouse. Low-enriched, to be more precise. That is, it's cheaper than tungsten cores. And these apparently are used for a stronger shape charge effect. There's nothing here related to radiation, but they say you should close your windows and doors because of radiation. Overall, on one hand, it's kind of hard to believe all this because so many times before there have been tall tales told. Here you can already believe in anything. And on the other hand, they also told stories about barbecues you could have there without any problems, and about coffee in Yalta, and about things that supposedly weren't there. There will be no devaluation in the Russian Federation in 1998 firmly and clearly. What does that mean? I'm not even linking it to specific countries anymore. So if the authorities say something, it most likely means, well, if the authorities say something didn't happen, then most likely it did happen. That's why, after so many years of war and so many lies, you can believe just about anything by now. From both sides, you could probably believe anything by now. About a thermonuclear bomb, about a Cheburashka in the ammunition warehouse, about aliens, about anything at all. But, in general, common sense and Occam's razor don't let you live in peace. And still, I resist the thought that there were some shells with enriched uranium there, especially without any connection to the kind of weapons that could actually use them. If there were a lot of missiles stored there, they would explode like crazy. By the way, as someone wrote in the comments, the explosions are supposedly uranium detonating somewhere. Well, guys, sorry, but try to understand the basics first. I mean, those who think that uranium by itself, especially low-enriched uranium, can explode. First, look up what critical mass is, under what conditions these shells are stored, and what that actually means. And in that case, there wouldn't be recommendations to just close your windows, but like in that old Soviet joke, to wrap yourself in a sheet and slowly crawl to the cemetery. Besides, you need to hold the rifle at arm's length so that the molten metal doesn't drip onto your issued boots and ruin them. Jokes aside, the situation is scary, and Zelensky, of course, is demanding that someone tell him something about it. Well, I just shared what I know, but let's see what he's talking about there. Rescue work is ongoing. He reported that Russia launched 68 missiles at Ukraine. That's significant. Some of them were ballistic, and also more than 350 drones of various types. In particular, Shahed-type jet drones. And now Zelensky says that there is a difficult situation in Vishneva near Kyiv due to a secondary detonation. And he reported that the Minister of Internal Affairs, Ihor Klimenko, has been giving updates on the progress of the rescue operation almost every half hour since last night. Well, he reports that some people were rescued and unfortunately some were not. There are many dead there. There were photos that also spread around the world with horrific scenes. The president always stays informed and keeps everything under control. It would be better if he kept his finger on the pulse of the ceasefire. And while he keeps his finger on the pulse, what about Kyiv? Kyiv is among the worst cities to live in. Well, congratulations. Since 2019, there have been so many achievements that it's overwhelming. Even since 2014, when that whole bunch started rolling out their initiatives and schemes there. Schemes, let's call them. Well, words can't describe these improvements that I think have reached almost every citizen in Ukraine. So, Kyiv made it into the top 10 least livable cities. Just think about that. In fact, not just the top 10, but even the top 3, to get ahead of myself. According to a ranking by The Economist, the Ukrainian capital is on the same level as cities like Tehran, Tripoli, which is in Libya, and Lagos. Or Lagos? Experts evaluated 173 cities from different parts of the world based on 5 main criteria. First, healthcare. Second, infrastructure. Third, education. Fourth, stability. Fifth, culture and environment. Which cities are leading in our ranking? Copenhagen, Vienna, Melbourne, Sydney, Zurich, Geneva, Osaka, Adelaide, Vancouver, Tokyo. Which cities made it to the list of the worst? And at the end, Damascus. It has held this spot since 2013, but Kyiv quickly rose up and is now among the best cities. Tehran, Harare, Kyiv, Port Moresby. I honestly don't even know where that is. Lagos, Algiers, Karachi, Dhaka, Tripoli, and Damascus. But previously, Kyiv was ranked 117th in the ranking. Since 2022, the capital was excluded from the ranking, but later returned at 165th, dropping about 50 places from 117. And this year's ranking also includes a number of cities from the Middle East. Because war has reached them too, as it has the people of the Middle East. To make Kyiv a wonderful city and Ukraine a second Switzerland, nothing special is needed, but there is a simple recipe. We take NATO and we take NATO Secretary General Rutte, and Rutte will do everything so that Ukraine starts living well, apparently. Let's see what Rutte proposes. And he says that the alliance, that is NATO itself, should continue to support Kyiv. On the eve of the NATO summit in Ankara, the Secretary General of the alliance called on the member countries of the bloc to support Ukraine. It turns out that during the summit, the announcement of new multi-billion military aid packages for Kyiv is expected. Here, Kyiv is considered as a socio-political entity. Well, from an urban planning perspective, let's say it is not considered. And that's a mistake, because from an urban planning perspective, nothing good will happen after these billions are allocated. That is, strikes on Kyiv will continue constantly. Residents will be exposed to threats to their lives and health. But it's clear that all these foreign citizens don't care at all about what happens to ordinary Ukrainians. They are ready to hug Zelensky to the point of insanity and his accomplices like Sibiga. And well, what should you do for yourself? Do a lot so that their war doesn't catch up with you. Plus, you can make some money. For example, in Germany, Rheinmetall got back on its feet. Its stock from 2000 to I think 2014 or even since 2022 has increased in price by 1000%. Just think about it. 1000%. Percent, which means it's actually 10 times? The shares went up by an order of magnitude, whoever had this organization's securities. They can basically drink champagne for the rest of their life with their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, because no Bitcoin can beat the returns of this company's shares right now. And then what? And then Rutte promises that at the summit in Ankara, new defense contracts will be announced. And apparently that's wonderful. In response to criticism from Washington, European countries, alliance members, and Canada have increased their spending on defense and security. In particular, they are already allocating about 4% of their GDP to these purposes, however, not all of them. Leading the way are the 3 Baltic states, a few other countries as well. Well, on one hand, that's because the Baltics have always been somewhat militant. By the way, I was also asked in the comments, why do you always dump on them like that? Well, I say it's because their strange military aggression, this aggressiveness, it's not based on anything. Okay, maybe some big country can act aggressively and say all sorts of things about its neighbors. But when you yourself have a hole in your own boat, well, it all seems very strange. And if your budget is made up of several million euros, that's good, that's wonderful. And you allocate a few thousand euros to the NATO budget. Then, he said, now Seda, I think, stated that he called on other countries to also contribute to the European Union budget. So if you take Germany, then 4% of its GDP, most Germans would have enough of that money for the rest of their lives. I mean, not just 1 or 2 people, but the whole nation, if you just take it and divide it like that. And here he talks about how we should follow the rules and distribute funds among NATO members. But I got sidetracked. Rutte, yes, that's what he said. And we're also talking about an additional 2.5% of GDP for traditional military spending, plus another 1.5% for other related items. In 2025, the powerful leaders increased military spending by 20%. Over the last 18 months, we're talking about additional spending of $258 billion. The summit is happening amid Trump's dissatisfaction with European allies. Trump has become so powerful that he could even tell the referee at that football championship who should get a red card and who shouldn't. And it was also very interesting to hear that Trump actually had no idea what a red card was. Because for them, their own version of football isn't really football, it's rugby. That's what they consider football, but soccer, where you kick the ball with your feet and run around with a round ball, isn't as popular there. And Trump has always supported his national sports, then suddenly he found out there's this thing called football, and that someone even got a red card there. He immediately figured it out, just like with his nomination, and that's how it turned out. What happened was the disqualified champion, the champion athlete, was brought back. That is, he was allowed to play again. Anyway, Trump is extremely dissatisfied with his European allies. He doesn't see anything good coming from them. Then there's another president, this time from Ukraine. Here, Zelensky talked about a new stage in the confrontation with Russia. By the way, he no longer hides it and openly uses harsh words against Russia. Some partners have already reached their limit, diplomacy is stretched to the maximum, and beyond that only the sky is the limit. And Zelensky is speaking to us from those very cloud-covered heights. The decisive phase of Russia's war against Ukraine has moved from land and sea to the air, and the battle in the sky will be the defining one. Today, says Zelensky, I believe that victory in this war will go to the one who is smarter. If you stop the enemy on the battlefield, if you stop the war on land, and if you deprive them of dominance at sea, as we did with our naval drones by pushing back the Russian fleet, then the next battlefield will be the sky. And again, well, you look at the maps now, but things are not going well at all in Donbass. Yes, they have these intentions to bomb Crimea, but just sending planes to bomb, it's not going to last forever. But the situation on the ground is a bit different. We'll see, of course, what comes of it. But in the meantime, again, people are dying, and Zelensky keeps saying all sorts of things. So let's see what these wise, powerful leaders who are not our friends have brought today and what they can tell us. Let's start with the invitation first. Here, Ilyinsky, the greatest Soviet actor, agreed to invite all of them. Well then, let's listen to the clowns. Oh, my apologies. And we will immediately begin listening to these talented young and not so young people. Suddenly, for those who missed Klubanit, she suddenly appeared. She just had a baby, I think, so don't judge her for her appearance. But for her way of thinking, it's fair to criticize her, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Now she's claiming that Crimea can be demilitarized. Check out this powerful military figure. You've probably never seen anyone like him. Watch how he tears the enemy apart with his teeth. And he'll crush everyone into dust, not later, but right now.
There's no point in trying to scare people in Ukraine anymore after 5 years. But do you, Mr. Alexander, as someone who understands politics and has been involved in military affairs for so many years, do you believe that Russia could really at some point pack their bags and head to Moscow? Do you believe that this is really possible? I
completely believe it is possible.
What does he know about war? Just because he has some kind of military shirt, that's all. Honestly, I don't understand. What is this?
What can we do to make Russians leave Crimea? Crimea can be demilitarized, and it is already happening.
I'm sure you could fly to Alpha Centauri tomorrow. Well, you could. Overall, yes, there's a chance. You could fly there, but most likely we won't. But well, you could. That's how it is. Math allows for everything. Then there's also the powerful General Krivonis, who complains that he's not being allowed to go to war. And together with the powerful draft dodger Bereza, who is in Austria, telling everyone how they all need to go to war. He spent a few days there, let's say, fighting, along with all these Amelians, Yugas, Lutsenkos, and other Terminators, demolition men. And now he, as you can see, has pompously started talking to authoritatively declare how everyone else is a draft dodger, and he alone is good and handsome. This also immediately brings to mind KVN, where they sang about Seryoja Molodets because he's my son. Look.
That a large number of people are ready to silently watch what's happening, following the principle of don't look up. Because a lot of people, when, for example, the topic of mobilization is raised, say, but who will replace the people at the front? I say, you, for example, you who haven't fought yet. Why me? Because it's you. Who else would I ask?
Кто тебя спрашивает? Интересно. I would like to see a person in their right mind and sober senses who would personally approach this character and start asking about some serious things. Well, what kind of nonsense is this? If he was passing by, well, honestly, I'm a peaceful person. I mean, there are people who write in the comments, I would do this, I would do that. I wouldn't even touch him because, well, in some cases it's better not to interact with certain people. Mark Twain talked about people like that, but I won't say anything about it on YouTube because YouTube might take it as an insult. But really, what can you even talk about with people like that? It's basically like talking to people who claim that Bill Gates personally walks the streets and chips people himself. Well, that's about the same level. I mean, it's about the same likelihood of that happening.
I was in the army, and none of you came to replace me.
Where have you been, my God? He posted it on his own Telegram channel. And there's his photo posted there, I think, with that very tactical helmet. Why does he need it? It's impossible to understand, but he posed in it. And now he's all handsome, telling draft dodgers that they need to go fight. And he doesn't talk about how he himself got discharged, what happened there. And they have a whole lineup of these great heroes. Like, this, what's his name? Daiki Yevhen, who no one even understands what he did in that army. Before all those Ukalises and Tolstolovics and all those kinds of birches, people...
Avoiding responsibility and involvement is a major problem.
Do you want comfort in a warm bath, or do you want to face reality and see what must be done to save this country?
If you put the question that way, then I want to sit in a warm bath and enjoy myself. Ha. And let someone accuse me of being wrong for that. Hedonism is everything for us. For example, I believe that a person is born to live and to live well. And if you think that I'm just spoiled, that's not the case. I was born into a very poor family back in the Soviet times and all that. And then things got even tougher. So I went through a lot, not just for a month or two, but for many years. And I truly believe that we are not meant for hardships. We should just live well, eat good food, live peacefully, enjoy nature, enjoy the company of other people, preferably smart people, of course. Play computer games or do some programming or lay bricks, basically anything that brings pleasure and satisfaction. And all this talk about whether you want to sit in the bath or learn about the realities of life, well, you go ahead and live in those realities yourself. I mean, look, you've got a fireplace mantle behind you. Just look at that. That must be a pretty expensive house, right? They say you want to sit in a warm bath, but you're already clean. You just got out of the bath. Not from a trench or the front lines, just people like that. Kind of strange. But still, this Beryoza is impressive. He has this expression like he just ate a lemon and is now trying to say something clever. Something was really tasty. Write in the comments what you think about this, especially about those shells. If you've read any more reliable sources somewhere, then share what you've read or seen, but just without any completely wild theories. Although, why not? Share everything you know. Well, that's it. Goodbye, everyone.
Sign the contract. Get a referral to a brigade. Choose a position. Otherwise, all the civilians are afraid that the whole war is just military infantry and nothing else. No, there's plenty of work. We need everything.
We don't go to work as if it's some kind of burden. It's a joy for us, that's what I'll say. We arrive here, and it's a completely different world.